I don't know if Brother Herb's gonna do this after I done the singing or not, but so far I ain't heard anybody say anything about the veterans. So if you're,
We got,
oh, you already said that?
no, we hadn't already, but.
Oh, okay, I'll do it anyway. So we got your veterans in here? And if you do, will you stand?
Veterans?
Oh, we got
Yeah, we got some veterans.
Anyways, and so since it ain't Veterans Day, I'm gonna do God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white cliffs fall. God bless America, my home sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white cliffs fall. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
We have youth tonight. And if children's church, any children that want to come?
Children's church. No, I'm not. No, I am not. I'd be wringing their necks. Erase that.
Eric, before you leave, would you cut me on?
There you go.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Dustin.
Appreciate it. Appreciate y'all being here tonight. How many of you expected when you got here tonight you were probably gonna get drowned and wet before you got here?
Possibility.
Appreciate you coming.
At least it's not snowing.
Being here, keeping the weather, holidays, and all the rest.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
My wife can't hear me. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not very
You
good.
might want to move up closer.
No!
Hard hearing. Remember, you gotta go home with her? Yeah,
That's right.
She's got this built-in listening restraint. It's keeping my voice, I think.
I thought it was just men that did
At
that.
any rate, thank you for being here. If you can't hear me, just raise your hand, frown real hard or something, and I'll try to up my volume here, and we'll see what we can do. I am going to be preaching to you tonight from Miss Wanda Hawthorne's Bible. I walked off and forgot mine with my sermon outline and everything else in it. And so, having forgotten my Bible and my sermon notes at home, I'm going to be preaching from memory.
And the wife laughed.
I couldn't be in before this is all said and done. Turn with me to the book of Ecclesiastes. Yeah, we're in the middle of the Bible, Old Testament. Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, right there. And we want to read from chapter 3. first 8 verses. This is, of course, Veterans Day, 101st anniversary of Veterans Day. And we want to preach this and hear what God has to say to us out of this passage of Scripture over against the sacrifices that our military people have made to help our country be what it is today over a long, long line of years. And you'll hear from time to time in this passage of Scripture something that gives warrant and meaning to those who have served in military service. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1. To everything there is a season. There is a time for every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which was planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get or to acquire or to seek to gather up. And then there's a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and tear. And then there's a time to sow and patch. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. The first time I ever heard about the idea of TPO, which is time and place and occasion, I was a seminary teacher. We had a guy from Japan that had come to take some classes in our school. And being a Japanese foreigner in our area, he wanted to try to fit in. Well, we lived in South Dakota, and it was German country. And practically everybody there are Swedish with blonde and blue-eyed. And there's not any blonde and blue-eyed Japanese people. He didn't fit in anywhere that he went, but he tried so hard. And one day he came to me and he asked me, he said, I need you to help me with my TPO. What is TPO? I don't know if I can help you with that. Or what is? He said, you know TPO, time, place, occasion. There is an appropriate set of clothing for every time and place and occasion. There are appropriate mannerisms and courtesies for every time and place and occasion. And he wanted to be sure that he wore the right thing and that he said the right thing and that he did the right thing for every time, place, and occasion. And I've thought about that over the years. That is an art that has been lost, but oh my goodness, it is a valuable art. To be able to fit in, to be able to recognize and read the time that you're in, the occasion that you're in, and to be able to do it with appropriateness, the place that you're in. Now, this passage of Scripture goes to the heart of TPO, time, place, and occasion. There are people that will tell you that there is never a time for war. Well, the passage of Scripture says there is.
Amen.
There's people who will tell you you're never ever supposed to hate. This passage of Scripture tells you there's a time to hate. The Bible even will go so far as to say that there are things and behavior patterns that God hates.
Amen.
And He wants you and me to join Him in hating these destructive elements that have crept into His creation. So, how to fit in, how to read the signs of the times. There's two ways to get it wrong. Two ways to get it wrong. Number one is, and if you look at these passages of Scripture, time to be born, that's great. A time to die, that's not great. A time to plant, that's good. A time to tear down or pluck up what's planted. Do you see these are opposites? There's a positive and a negative. Positive and negative. Positive and negative. And this positive and negative runs down through every one of these experiences, which were laid out for us by this Old Testament preacher to encompass the basic range of human experience in human life. There's going to be positives and there's going to be negatives. Now, if you think everything has got to be positive, you're going to get it wrong. There's going to be some negative and you're going to be trying to be positive and your TPO is going to be off. And then there's negatives and you're going to try to be positive and your TPO is going to be off. You know what we call people who get it wrong on the positive side? How many of you remember the book that came out in 1913 and has been made into 2 movies called Pollyanna?
Oh, wow.
You remember Pollyanna? She's a little girl, had to go live with her aunt. Her mother died, and her aunt was as mean as the devil. And the aunt was gonna train her so that she would grow up to be as mean as she was, I suppose. And so the little girl was late for supper, and she said, "I'm going to teach you to never be late again. You're going to have to, for 1 week, have milk and bread only for supper, and you're going to have to eat out in the servants' quarters with the maid named Nancy." And so a week later, the little girl shows back up at supper, and Ann asked her, "So what did you learn?" She said, "Oh, we had a great time. Nancy was just one of the most wonderful people I ever been around, and I didn't know it, but I love milk and bread." And so it wasn't long till something else happened. And the aunt said, "I'll get her this time." And she put her in a room up in the attic of the house. Do y'all remember this story? You've seen the movie? It didn't have a rug on the floor. It didn't have a picture. It didn't have anything on the wall. It was like living in a box. But it did have a window. And it was way up high. And she could see way out that window. She could see the meadows and the stars at night, and she could see the sun coming up in the daytime. She had to spend a week up there. After she came back down, Ann asked her about it. She said, "That's the most wonderful room in this whole house. I saw the sunrise every morning. And I saw the moon come up. And I saw the stars. I want to stay up there." And so the whole gist of the movie, Pollyanna, the book, it was written by a book first, is everything is positive. Well, that's not true, folks. This passage of Scripture says there's some things that's negative that you and I had better be prepared for when they come. Now, there are a lot of positives. The sun does come up. E.W. and Ann sent us a picture of Ann going home. It's getting dark from her deer stand, and here's the moon coming up over the lake close to their new property. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I'm going to tell you a secret, though. It isn't going to be beautiful in January. 28 below zero, and it's freezing your toes off. It loses some of its allure with the negative time. Now, there's a second wrong thing that we can do. Pollyanna's wrong. I mean, you can't turn everything in this world into positive. But at the same token, you don't want to become an old sourpuss who thinks everything is wrong and everybody's out to get you. And I want you to know that this is becoming the cultural echo of our day. I was reading this story just today, as a matter of fact, looking for an illustration for this point. I found a perfect one. 8-year-old girl in Atlanta, Georgia. She comes in crying after recess at school. She tells the teacher, "There was a man on the playground with a gun. He touched it to my nose. He grabbed me as I come down the slide. And he was going to run away with me. And he choked me. And then the teacher blew his whistle. And it was time for us to come in. And he got scared and ran away. Well, they had lockdown at the school. Called out the police. I mean, they put on a search. They questioned everybody. She's the only one that saw that guy. The only one that thought there was a gun. The only one, 8 years old, that thought she was getting kidnapped. Not another soul saw another thing. And they researched, and they investigated, and they did everything they could do. And the police report finally says the little girl made it all up, and nothing had ever happened. Which was the truth. Which was the truth. In the first place, nobody could have got onto that school ground with a gun in their pocket. It was too securely tightened. That's why they locked it down immediately, because they thought something happened to their security system. The psychiatrist began to speak to this little girl and talk to her, and they found out that she had heard somewhere, somehow or another, the narrative that children were being kidnapped all over the United States, and people with guns were choking them and threatening to do harm to them. And she just wanted people to notice her. And so she fell into the national narrative that is being hammered into the minds and the hearts of even our children in these United States. It's not that negative. It's bad. Every now and then some guy goes nuts. But for goodness sake, here you want me to give you a fact that comes out of the FBI studies. Our children are the safest in all of the whole wide world. Anybody that was going to take a gun onto a campus nowadays and try to grab a child, I tell you what, I would hate for anybody to come into this church with a gun and try to start something. I know too many of you, what you got in your boots. You'd be a fool to try that. So there's a second way to get it wrong, and that's to go negative, to go fearful. Guy's written a book called The Dominance of Fear, and how over and over again in Western culture today, institution after institution after institution is becoming paralyzed with a fear. And we're just like the man in Shakespeare who fears 1,000, they said a coward fears 1,000 deaths before, suffers 1,000 deaths before his time. Always fearing where no one pursues. So, what is the answer? You don't want to go all positive, and you don't want to go all sourpuss negative and walk around scared to death all the time, afraid something's going to happen to you. Notice the passage of Scripture the way it was written. Let the Bible speak here. And the very first verse gives us the hint that we need to everything. There is a season, a time to every purpose under heaven. You know what a season does? How many of you know what deer season is? When does it start?
In October.
October 1st.
How long does it go? How long does it go?
January.
Does it come to an end? That's the way it is with seasons. Seasons have a starting point and they got a termination point. Now I want to tell you something about the negative points in your negative moments in your life. They are like a season. They'll start, but they don't go on forever. They stop. For everything under the heavens. And the second word, there is a time to every purpose. The word time there, if you go back to the original Hebrew, means an appointed time. Somebody got a pencil and wrote it on the calendar. It's an appointment. That means there is an appointer. There is somebody arranging this stuff. It doesn't happen willy-nilly. It doesn't go on forever. And neither does the positive. You think, boy, we got it made now. No, you don't. It's just going to have a good season here for a while. And then there's going to be another season. Just about the time Vicki and I get our house paid for, get our cars paid for, and we're feeling really, really, really good, and all these kinds of things, what happens? The insurance doubles. 5 surgeries in the space of 3 years. And on and on and on it goes. You have negative seasons and you have positive seasons, but they are seasons. They have a starting point and a stopping point because God is the one who makes these appointments. If you go down to verse 11, He made everything in its time. He's the one doing the appointing. He makes it all fit. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, the way the negative and the positive work together. Now, second thing is this. Negatives are good for us. No pain, no gain. Did you know that? You need to have some negative moments. You need to have some times when you have to just get down on your knees and say, God, help me or I'm not going to make it. You see, here's the point of the life that this preacher of the Old Testament is trying to get us to, and that is what we call a balanced lifestyle, where we enjoy the positive and we don't fear the negative. Because as the New Testament will say, in everything, even the negatives, God is at work to will and to achieve His purpose in the life of those who trust Him. But I want to tell you a secret, even in the lives of those who don't trust Him, if they can keep themselves balanced, God will bless them. It's the people who get out of balance, all negative or all positive. They're the fools. And the whole idea behind Ecclesiastes is here's wisdom and here's fooldom. Don't be a fool. Be wise. Understand God appoints these things. There's a time for positives, a time for the negatives. God appoints these times. They keep us sharp. If all we ever got was positive, 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 you know what would happen to us? First of all, we wouldn't have a work ethic worth a flip. Number two, we wouldn't want to get up in the morning because we wouldn't have to. Number three, we wouldn't do a blessed thing because it'd all already be done for us. Everything's so positive and so nice. And we would turn into one of the softest, most vulnerable, most worthless generations that ever walked on this earth. So the passage of Scripture, in the way it's even set up and written, calls us to a balanced kind of life. That's the wise life. Enjoy the positive moments, and they're going to come. They're appointed. They're already written on your calendar. God's the calendar keeper. He's your secretary. And there's going to be some negative moments. They're for your training, for your strength. Now, they're scary. If you think they're going to last forever, well, they're not. They're a season. Let me close just by pointing out something to us here. This is Veterans Day, of course. We got military people all over the world. I called two today that were in my graduating class in high school and just said thank you for your service. One of them was an Air Force guy that did, I guess, 15 years in the Air Force. The other one was drafted and served as an Army Ranger. went through some harrowing experiences, and even today spends most of his time counseling PTSD patients who come back from Desert Storm and some of these later conflicts. Jimmy Matthews, his name. Just to say thank you to him. But here's what we have to understand, folks. There is a time to hate. Time to love. You don't want to get caught hating forever. That'll ruin you. That'll turn you into a poison-hearted, demonic being. But there is a time, a season for hating. There's some things in this world that are hateful, and they need to be hated. And there's a time for war. These peaceniks marching all up everywhere. If we would just trust them and be good to them, and if we give them Jerusalem, and if we give them the West Bank, then they wouldn't kill us anymore. No. You give them Jerusalem and you give them the West Bank, and then the next thing you're going to do is give them your house, and they're going to throw you out. Golda Meir said it this way when she was the Prime Minister of Israel. She said, you don't negotiate and go meet anybody halfway when they want you dead. Mm-hmm. Half dead is not good. All over the world today, though, Israel, the nation Israel, is hated because they believe that they ought to go to war and keep people from killing them and blowing their towns and their cities and their schools up. And if you and I become very vocal about supporting Israel, you know what will happen to us? The same thing that happened to Daryl Morey. You know who he is? Daryl Morey is vice president of the Houston Rockets basketball team. And so he tweeted 2 little lines: stand with Hong Kong. Stand for freedom. He nearly lost his job, and he would have if he hadn't apologized. He believes that what the Chinese are doing in Hong Kong is something that ought to be hated and ought to be fought against. But the NBA that he works for and with has got millions and millions of dollars worth of tennis shoe contracts with the Chinese. And the Chinese government said, you've hurt our feelings, you hate us. And for the price of a pair of tennis shoes, the NBA sold out to China. Oh, we love China. They're just like us. No, they're not. They're sure not. There's 3 questions that face Western culture today, and China is one of them. Will they control the economy of the world, or will they play fair? That's going to be answered in the next 20 years, and if it's not answered right, then there's going to have to be a war fought. The next question facing Western civilization is, what about radical Muslims? Will the Muslim radicalize and continue to become more and more and more a matter of terroristic killers, or will they go into the more less jihadi form of Islam, live and let live? Which way is China going to go? Which way are the Muslims going to go in the next 20 years? If they don't go in a positive direction, that's going to be something that needs to be hated and fought. We're going to need soldiers. If we raise up a generation that do not know that, do not believe that, God help us. Our country and our civilization will disappear. People won't, but how they live won't be anything like you and I live today. There's a time for peace. There's a time for war. And those who are wise can tell the difference. There's a time to love, and there's a time to hate. But those who walk in the wisdom of God can tell the difference. Those who are led by the Spirit, these comprise the hope You know, a person today, thank God for him, for her. They recognize that there's some things in this world got to be fought. Just tell them thank you. And then love them and care for them. Weep with them when they weep. Laugh with them when they laugh. Be happy with them in their happiness. Keep your life in balance. And may God bless America. Amen. With balanced people. Made that way by the wisdom that can only be found in this good book. Pray with me. Gracious Lord, thank you for your word. Thank you for the privilege that we have to be a part of a free country. Thank you for those who died, fought, risked their lives. In many instances, Lord, suffer even today in ways we can't even understand because of the price they paid as soldiers and as military personnel for our country. God, I pray that in years to come, our country will continue to be home of the brave, land of the free, able to discern between good and evil, willing to take a stand, fight that which is evil, willing to take a stand and embrace, propagate that which is good, and help us to understand that Jesus Christ is the great good for everybody, and that what he's opposed to, the evil one, is our enemy, to be fought and hated for all their work. Oh God, have we found faithful in the life you've given us to live. In Christ's name, amen. Amen.
Chili Willy in here. I put my hand in it on.
I can get him walk around.
What's going on, Dustin? How's that little boy doing?
Sherry.